This week's theme is injuries, and more specifically, injuries to your superstars. The dirty little secret of the NBA, as much as coaches and analysts and ESPN hates to admit, is that the whole next man up mentality is straight bull. There is no next man up in the NBA because the next man up was some guy who averaged 12 points a night in the G League. These guys are one of a kind in the 1% of human beings with respect to their height, while being asked to be more agile than a gazelle, more durable than a cockroach, and silky smooth shooters of the basketball as well. So there are going to be long stretches of the regular season of losing for teams like the Nets, Pelicans, and Bucks. And today's high injury pace of play, injury management is a crucial skill for a head coach, which is why I still have so much respect for guys like Ty Lue in spite of all the frustrations of the losing in the regular season. So get prepared for a long year with streaky teams while we deal with our injured superstars. So we're going to start at the bottom. And speaking of the bottom, this team has just been so bad. I created an entirely new tier for this team called the pathetic tier because the Houston Rockets at 10-36 are just absolutely embarrassing. Their effort is embarrassing. Their offense is awful. Their defense is broken, and the development track for this team doesn't exist. They have multiple top 5 picks. They got Jalen Green, number 2 overall pick, Jabari Smith, number 3 overall pick, who was supposed to go number 1 by most NBA analysts, including myself. Kevin Porter Jr. is a good player. Jayshawn Tate, Kenyon Martin Jr., Alperen Şengün has been a godsend. And look, I don't care how many top 5 picks you get. If you don't develop them, we're just wasting our freaking time here. I was going to save it for next week, but initially I was upset. Josh Christopher isn't getting any minutes out of Arizona State. He was a pretty good player. He's selfish, don't get me wrong, but he's a young, high upside athlete with a good jumper. One of his issues is that he doesn't play quote unquote the right way, which on this broken Rockets team, playing the right way gets you benched, gets you nowhere. Ty Washington plays the right way, and Dyson freaking Nix starts over him, starts for 34 minutes a night. And this team's effort on both sides of the court and lack of development is being called out by literally everybody now. The Houston Rockets announcers.
You can't afford it. You gotta be kidding me. This is just ridiculous. You gotta be kidding me. That's a goaltend on Green. This is just absurd.
The players themselves, specifically Eric Gordon, everybody watching them, all the fans are saying this horrible Houston Rockets squad just needs to go. They're the worst team in the NBA, and they should have upside. They should be like, oh, this team's going to be good in a couple years. But we don't know that because of how poorly this team has been handling its young players and old players and the roster as a whole. So on the one hand, if you're playing 2K and you're like, oh man, we're going to have some good players in a couple years. Yeah, you are totally. But this is the real world, and you have to develop your players. You need a good mix of veterans to show the young players the ropes, show them how to play basketball, and make sure that they're developing. And right now, this team is doing an absolutely horrible job on all fronts of their organization. So the Rockets are firmly in last place in their own tier. And above them, we're going to actually have a tier of teams. And this is the tanking for Victor Wembanyama tier. I know that the Houston Rockets have the worst record in the NBA and the best odds, or tied with the best odds. But man, the Rockets have just been a frustrating team to watch. Speaking of frustrating at 29 is going to be the Detroit Pistons. Not too much to talk about here. No Cade Cunningham for the rest of the year. Just kind of seeing how Jaden Ivey and Jalen Duren are going to pan out for the team. Is Bojan Bogdanovic going to be on the trading block? Is Saddiq Bey going to be on the trading block as well? But all in all, this team actually competes for the most part. Dwayne Casey's been doing a pretty good job at developing the team. The rotations are pretty bad, and the rest of the team, as far as winning is concerned, isn't doing great. But unlike the Rockets, this team is just not fun to watch versus being a complete freaking joke. One spot ahead of them is the Charlotte Hornets, and they just lost LaMelo Ball again, and I think it's time for them to officially embrace the tank. If I'm the GM of the Hornets, who is it Michael Jordan still? I don't know what's going on with their horrible front office. I'd see what I have in James Bouknight. He was supposed to be a pretty high upside number 11, I think, overall pick, and he's just been a complete bust and had some drug and alcohol problems. So see what you got with him before his rookie scale runs out. Maybe trade him away for some assets. Otherwise, he's just going to be out of the league. See if Bryce McGowan's is any good. Kai Jones, JT Thor. Mark Williams has been pretty impressive. He looks like he's going to be an instant starter next season. Trade away Mason Plumlee for a Jakob Poeltl-sized haul. Just give this full roster a complete eval. See who's going to be sticking around for the long-term future. Because for me, personally, just looking at this team, I'm keeping Scary Terry. I'm keeping LaMelo Ball. And I might keep PJ Washington. The rest of the team is expendable. Next team up is going to be the San Antonio Spurs. Absolutely no movement at this point. They play well. Jeremy Sohan has been playing pretty good basketball. Keldon Johnson's been all right. They're competitive at the same time that they're losing. They're basically doing the perfect tank job here. 14-32 with Greg Popovich leading the way. And the Magic are going to round out this tier at the 26th spot. A little bit disappointing on the one hand. I thought they'd be a little bit better. Thought they'd be making the playoffs. They just continue to struggle, continue to not win basketball games. But Jonathan Isaac will be coming back. It's been, I think, 2, maybe 3 years since old JI was playing basketball, so that's going to be nice to see. We have a tier up, and there's only 2 teams in this tier because there's not a lot of movement. We really know what these teams are at this point, so I'm just separating them out into more specific tiers. This is the tier of disappointing teams. Only 2 teams going to be in this tier. Of course, the Washington Wizards, and they've been disappointing. Ooh, Rui Hachimura just got traded. Hello. For Kendrick Nunn and 3 second-round picks. That's underwhelming. If I'm if I'm the Washington Wizards. Wow, this is happening in real time. I apologize for this, but Rui Hachimura is now officially a Los Angeles Laker, and I gotta say, for the haul that came back to the Washington Wizards, that's disappointing. Regardless, that's classic Washington Wizards team where they disappoint you no matter what happens. So there you go. That power forward position is getting cleared up a little bit. Instead of trading away Kyle Kuzma for like 2 first-round picks or trading away Denny Avdija, they got rid of Rui Hachimura and got second-round picks and a Kendrick Nunn expiring contract. Good stuff. Still disappointing, as always, are the Washington Wizards. 1 spot ahead of them is going to be the Toronto Raptors, and they continue to find ways to lose games. They're this team who's capable of beating any team on any given night as long as their 3-point shot is falling. Fred VanVleet likely on the trade block, Pascal Siakam as well, but they just lose games that they shouldn't, and then they can go out and just win a game, and everybody goes, oh my God, this team's turning it around. Scotty Barnes is the next best thing. They're 6 games under 500. Next tier is going to be the what the f is the NBA tier. This has been pretty common because there are so many teams that you just go, what is happening? Why are we winning? Why are we losing? Starting with the Chicago Bulls, who I guess will be jumping up a tier. They only played 1 game last week, and it was against the Detroit Pistons, so good for you. I guess. Not much to say other than you handled your business. 1 spot ahead of them is the Portland Trail Blazers, and they are going to be coming down after a major losing streak. So I'm looking at their schedule. The game that I went to against the Mavericks, back-to-back nights, they whooped them 140 to 123, 136 to 119. And then they just lose to the Timberwolves, lose to the Pacers, lose to the Raptors, lose to the Magic, lose to the Cavs, 2-game win streak, lose to the Nuggets, lose to the 76ers, and then lose to the Lakers. And it's just a sad point on this team because this was really about as good as I expected the Blazers to be. They started off the season hot. They did that soft rebuild, whatever the hell that means. They got a whole bunch of young athletes on this team, but they're stuck a little bit in like a worse version of what the Warriors are, where they're trying to win while they're trying to rebuild, and it's just not working out. Feels like another year of wasting away Damian Lillard's prime. Next team is going to be the Indiana Pacers, and no surprises, they're coming down. Tyrese Haliburton, who knew he was the entire key to this team's success, but that was kind of what we expected when we saw the Tyrese Haliburton Domantas Sabonis trade. You go, oh my God, the Pacers walked away with a steal. And it is kind of working out for both teams. I think the Pacers are benefiting more. I would have traded away De'Aaron Fox for Domantas Sabonis and rocked the Domantas Sabonis Tyrese Haliburton lineup. There might be too many syllables in those names, but I think that would have worked out better. But hindsight 2020, I think this is actually good for the Pacers' long-term prospects if they play this right. I think they're maybe 1 or 2 years too early to compete. I think they were playing really good basketball, beating good teams in close games, playing good fundamental fourth quarter basketball. But I think they need more talent, another superstar or 2 before they're legitimate title contenders. I'd like to see them consolidate some of their assets, draft another player or 2 that's going to be a difference maker, and then run it instead of putting out this mediocre, we're playing better than we should product, because the entire league thought the Pacers were going to be horrible this year, and they were much better than expected. Good, not great. Halliburton is clearly going to be a generational player for them, at least Pacers-wise. I don't know if he's going to be, Chris Paul 2.0 or whatever. He's just continuing to play well. Ben Mathurin's going to be a bucket. I don't know how good he's going to be. Get 1, maybe 2 more good prospects, and I'm good with this roster, and Rick Carlisle leading the way as the head coach. Coming in ahead of them is the Los Angeles Lakers. Going to be the benefits of the Blazers and Pacers falling. And it's been an interesting week because LeBron James continues to not close games, and it's so frustrating to watch. 5 seconds left on the clock, and I'm just thinking, give me Kevin Durant, give me Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, give me Jimmy Butler. Hell, give me Chris Middleton or DeMar DeRozan, or give me Dennis Schroeder. It seems like everybody but LeBron, the best player on the court, is closing out these games. At the same time, they're winning games as well. They beat the Blazers, beat the Grizzlies, lost a close one to the Kings, whooped on the Rockets. So they're winning their games without Anthony Davis, and he's threatening to come back. When last seen, Anthony Davis was playing at a ridiculous... He was probably the best player in the Western Conference. Let's be completely honest. He was just putting up ridiculous stats. Russ has really filled into his role of coming off the bench, being a spark plug, playing well off of LeBron, if you can believe that. Now they just picked up Rui Hachimura. That's going to be a good move. He's just a net positive player for this team. Don't know how he's going to fit into the lineup, but we'll worry about that later. 33% three-point shooter this season on low volume. Not sure if it's going to be a great fit, but hey, they didn't have to give up one of their first-round picks. So anyways, the Lakers, I think they're primed to launch. I think they're primed to take off. A healthy Anthony Davis coming back, and this team is starting to win basketball games. Remember, they started like 10-17 or some horrible record, and they just been turning it around, playing really good basketball. So Lakers going to jump up 2 spots, and I think they're going to continue to climb. Another team benefiting off of the Blazers and the Pacers is going to be the Utah Jazz. Not too much to say about them. They're just winning their basketball games. It's simple as that. Beat the Clippers when the Clippers didn't care. Beat the Timberwolves in a close one. Lost to the Sixers, lost to the Nets. So they're playing about 500 basketball. This is about what we expected from the Utah Jazz this season. Are they going to blow it up? The trade deadline is approaching. And the Hawks continuing to climb in the rankings as well, 24-23. And you go, all right, they won some games. They had, what, a 5-game win streak there. But then they lost to the, second worst team in the NBA in the Charlotte Hornets in this weird Terry Rozier-led rally. And it was, I don't know how to explain it other than this is just Atlanta Hawks basketball. It's going to be a roller coaster season as they figure out who's going to be the alpha on this team, as they figure out if they're going to make a move for John Collins, for Trae Young, for Onyeka Okongwu, for DeAndre Hunter. The Hawks are in this tier of what the fuck is the NBA, because on any given night, they're going to be able to ball out and just dominate any good teams. They beat the Mavericks, they beat the Knicks, they beat the Heat, they beat the Raptors and the Pacers. But then they're also capable of losing any given night. So the Hawks are just this really volatile team. Not sure where to put them, so they're going to be sitting here at 18th, just behind the Golden State Warriors, who are jumping up a spot as well. Not by anything that they've done, but just by the fact that the Blazers and Pacers fell really far, and there's still this mediocre product that's struggling to win games. Lost to the Nets without Kevin Durant. Beat the Cavaliers completely undermanned. What? Then you lose to the Celtics the night before on this epic overtime game with all the starters playing. Rematch of the championship. So I'm not really sure what to do with this Warriors squad. They've just been hugely disappointing to this point, as everybody is well aware of. So I'm going to stick them here, 17th, and we'll see. You know, maybe they turn the corner. I don't think they have any moves at the trade deadline. They just need to get their heads out of their asses and start playing good basketball. Team who is climbing up, though, is going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder, just playing damn good basketball, much better than I expected. And imagine they're doing all this without their number 2 overall pick, Chet Holmgren. Shea's been great. Josh Giddey's been playing much better off of him. They were kind of struggling to figure out who's going to be the point guard, who's going to be the shooting guard, and it seems like they've got that mostly taken care of at this point. I might think about making a move for a starting center, because they're running Mike Muscala, Jeremiah Robinson Earl at the 5. It's not sustainable for winning, but right now they're just taking the regular season serious, and they're balling the hell out. They're not just winning, they're beating good teams, and they're beating them by a lot. So they beat the Nuggets by 2. Okay, go back on my word. Lost to the Kings, so it's respectable. Beat the Pacers by 20. Beat the Nets by 10. Beat the Bulls by 14. Beat the Sixers by, 19 points. They're playing good basketball and convincing basketball. Now, it is the regular season. They are about a 500 team, but playoffs for the Oklahoma City Thunder, it's been a long time, so that is good to see. Coming in ahead of them, though, will be the Phoenix Suns, and they're starting to get healthy. Cam Johnson came back, and they've just been such a better team with him playing basketball, as I'm getting alerts. Chris Paul is looking a little less washed at times. Mikal Bridges doesn't have to do as much now that Cam Johnson is in the lineup. DeAndre Ayton, though, has been majorly disappointing, and I'd like to see them move him at the trade deadline, see if they can get somebody who's actually wanting to play basketball. Like, I thought he turned the corner given his effort in the first quarter of the season. He was just being dominant. He was looking like Anthony Davis out there. And you think, okay, DeAndre Ayton finally got paid. Gonna turn on that dog, gonna say, I'm gonna ball the hell out and I'm gonna be the best damn center in the NBA. And then he went back to just kind of being wishy-washy in and out of games. Sometimes he plays, sometimes he doesn't. He has all the potential in the world to be a great player, but he just isn't. And that's what the Suns are dealing with, while Devin Booker is still out for the foreseeable future. Don't expect him to come back probably before the All-Star game, if we're being completely honest. One spot ahead of them is the Minnesota Timberwolves, just continuing to win games. They're like a 600 team that's trying to get back to 500. I mean, I'm looking at their win-loss record. They won against the Rockets, won against the Raptors. You go, okay. Lost against the Nuggets, lost against the Jazz. You go, oh. Then they win against the Cavs, win against the Suns. You go, okay. lost to the Pistons. What? And then they win against the Rockets, win against the Clippers, win against the Blazers, win against the Nuggets. You go, okay. But then they lose to the Pistons, lose to the Bucks, lose to the Pelicans, lose to the Heat, lose to the Celtics, lose to the Mavericks. So everything in this season, I said it before, that the Timberwolves are doing comes with an asterisk because they're playing Naz Reid and Nathan Knight and Luka Garza at their starting center positions right now. Just not really what you're going to expect to see once everybody comes back fully healthy. And how are they going to integrate that double big lineup? That's just going to be the question for this Timberwolves squad. That being said, they're playing good basketball, and Anthony Edwards is looking like a superstar. He's looking like an all-star. He's looking like somebody who's going to make an all-NBA team maybe this season. He has been unleashed, unlocked. Good to see. Coming in ahead of them, though, is the Miami Heat. No movement for them, just because this is kind of what we expected at this point for the Heat squad. They're playing good, not great basketball. They're going to be a tough out in the first or second round, but unless they make any moves, they're just not going to go that far. Jimmy Butler can't shoot. Bam Adebayo can't shoot. Tyler Hero is inconsistent, and then they have to rely on a bunch of G League guys to get buckets for them. It's just not sustainable basketball. They never replaced that PJ Tucker-sized hole, and they never upgraded on it as well. Are they going to make a move at the trade deadline? Or are they going to say, oh, this team is good enough. We have enough Heat culture, grit and grind, 2.0. Yet to be seen, but they're on a win streak right now. So 26 and 22, over 500 they were struggling with before. Good to see for the Miami Heat. Got the Clippers above them. I can't move them. I said this before. I say it again. They just don't take the regular season seriously, and I'm not really sure what to do with a team that's going to sit their guys for like 3/4 of the season and then unleash them in March or April. And Kawhi Leonard's come back. He's looked pretty damn good. Paul George looks to be back from injury. Maybe they're going to start to go on a win streak, jump up in the seeding. As always, they have the potential to be the best team in the NBA. I've routinely made them. I think in my last midseason recap video, I made them the Western Conference champions as well, because the rest of the West is still struggling. There's no one clear cut, we're better than the rest of the teams. And I think a healthy Kawhi, healthy Paul George, and a dominant Ty Lue is more than capable of winning the Western Conference. Are they going to, though? Going to be a huge question mark, as one spot ahead of them is the Dallas Mavericks, really toying with dropping them down a rank. They've just been so extremely unimpressive, but at the same time, they've got Luka Doncic, so putting them at 11 feels about right. And look, Luka Doncic is tired, man. Teams are full court pressing him. They're playing full court deny. They're picking him up defensively. They're starting to add up, and it's showing that Luka is still fat. And I've been frustrated for the longest time with his lack of being in shape. You know, it's charming. You know, it's funny. You go, oh, look at him. He's kind of chubby, but he's still playing basketball at such a high rate. He's so slow, but he's still playing basketball. Well, in the grind of the regular season, 82 games, all this adds up. And if you're not in supreme shape, you don't have great conditioning, you aren't passionate about the game, it's going to show, and you're going to play bad basketball in long stretches. And right now, Luka just needs to take a break mentally and physically, because he's always angry when he plays. He's always slow. He's getting blown by every single defender. It's really sad to watch. And I'm also sick of people saying he doesn't have enough help. They have enough top end help to be a better team than they are. When Luka Doncic, Spencer Dinwiddie, and Christian Wood are playing good basketball, they are a good team. They're going to beat a lot of other good teams. Now, their depth is horrible. They need a complete roster overall from 5 through 15. I will not deny that. But I think this trio of Wood, Dinwiddie, and Luka is good enough. If they can find somebody in free agency, steal a good player like a Pascal Siakam who's just waiting to go to a championship caliber team, this team's more than ready to compete for a chip. I mean, they're sitting here at the 11th spot in the power rankings. They have Luka Doncic, an MVP caliber candidate, on their team. They're just kind of waiting for a couple things to go their way, like last season, and they made the Western Conference Finals. So there they are, sitting at 11, no movement there, and that is the end of the WTF is the NBA tier. I got two teams, same as last week, in this next tier above. New York Knicks, gonna drop down a spot. Apparently, Mitchell Robinson is the key to this team's success, because they've been playing a really bad basketball ever since he went out with injury. They were winning a bunch of games, and now they're losing a bunch of games. I think they're on a 4-game losing streak right now, and Mitchell Robinson is going to be out for at least a few more weeks. Maybe they find a better backup center, because Isaiah Hartenstein has not been cutting it. Gerald McCoy-Sims, he's just too young, a little undersized at this point. He was my guy in the draft, but he's just struggling to play NBA basketball. And Tom Thibodeau just makes ridiculous rotations. He's got some personal grudge against Obi Toppin. I don't know what it is. Like, I know he's kind of a bust when Tyrese Halliburton was drafted behind him, but if Obi Toppin is playing good basketball, don't just sub him out because you feel like it. It's frustrating watching Tom Thibodeau coach games and their offense is bad, and he subs out guys who are playing well just because he wants to get Julius Randle more minutes, or he wants to get Evan Fournier more minutes. It's head scratching watching New York Knicks basketball. And realistically, if I'm competing for a championship, I'm not sure who I'm keeping on this team, like maybe Jalen Brunson, but that's it. Theoretically, I think every player on this roster should be available for a trade. One spot ahead of them is the Sacramento Kings, playing good basketball, get national recognition, light the beam. They've been on what, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 game win streak before they lost to the 76ers, the bench 76ers at that. And that was kind of a wake up call that they're not in this tier of championship caliber teams. And I've been saying that since this team was assembled. I like the depth, I like the roster, I just don't love the top end talent. If you're looking at every team when they're 100% right, I think the Kings are somewhere in the middle, 17th, 16th. But because so many teams are just broken right now, they're going to be sitting here at 9th on the outside looking in of these championship caliber teams. And that is going to be the good, not great tier. So the last tier, or really the second to last tier, is these flawed contenders tier, where any one of these teams theoretically could win a championship, but they might need to make a move or two. If that means getting healthy, if that means trading for a player, if that means replacing their coach, any one of these teams could be good enough, but right now they're just on the outside looking in of the Boston Celtics. And that's going to start with the Pelicans, and all the Pelicans need to do is get healthy. That's all they needed to do for the last 3 or 4 years. Brandon Ingram might be coming back from injury someday. Who knows? Zion Williamson might be coming back from injury someday. Who knows? But right now they're just continuing to struggle, continuing to find ways to lose games. They're in a 4-game losing streak right now. And look, when you don't have not only your best player, but your second best player as well, you're not going to be a good team. They were the 9th seed, I think, last year for a reason. So hopefully Zion BI comes back someday, turns this team around. Otherwise, you just say, ugh, man, this team isn't as good as we thought they would be. Well, yeah. Coming in ahead of them is the Milwaukee Bucks, who are going to be jumping over them, but they're just not really playing good basketball themselves. Does anyone know what Giannis is out with? He quietly got hurt and has been out like 5 or 6 straight games. They say it's like a sore knee or he's resting it. Giannis listed as probable for Monday's game in Detroit. Yeah, so maybe Giannis is going to play, maybe not. I don't know. They're load managing him, or maybe he's got an injury. They're being really quiet and secretive with that. Chris Middleton still out for the foreseeable future. He's dealing with that knee that apparently has been swollen ever since he was a little boy. I don't know what's going on with that, but he's still out for the foreseeable future. And Drew Holiday, holy crap, has this man been incredible. First of all, Drew Holiday is my defensive player of the year. He guards the other team's best player, regardless of their size. He's an incredible point of attack defender. And that defender who guards the guy who's on ball, who guards the other team's best player, even if it's like a center, he doesn't get the best counting numbers. He doesn't get the weak side blocks. He doesn't always get the steals. His impact of the game and the contributions that he has to this Bucks team, holding them afloat while their other 2 best players are out, is going completely unrecognized. Not only is he a defensive player of the year candidate, he's an all-star playing at an all-NBA level. Drew Holiday needs to get some respect for what he's been doing. Coming in ahead of them is the Brooklyn Nets. And, you know, I really thought they were going to be falling a lot more than they have. They started off losing, what, like 4 games in a row? Yeah, they lost to the Celtics, lost to the Thunder, lost to the Spurs. And that's when we all said, oh boy, here it goes. And they lost to the Suns, but then they beat the Jazz and they beat the Warriors. Now they got the 76ers coming up. I thought they were going to be playing worse. But man, Kyrie Irving has been absolutely sensational. Either he's looking for a contract extension, or maybe he's actually turned the corner in his life and he cares about basketball and gives a shit again. But he's dropping like 40 points a night, leading the teams in scoring, leading the fourth quarters, just making daggers, pulling out these ridiculous comebacks against teams that they probably were going to lose to. This team has been fun to watch without Kevin Durant. Imagine how much fun they're going to be watched when Kevin Durant comes back. They were the second best team in the NBA, competing for the best team in the NBA not too long ago. And I can't keep talking about how much of an impression Jacques Vaughn has left on me. He's got to be up in there as coach of the year candidate. Coming in next is the Cleveland Cavaliers, dropping down a spot, and I'm just not really sure what happened. But ever since Donovan Mitchell dropped that 71 points, he's basically been out of the lineup ever since. I don't know if he's got some sort of injury, or if they're load managing him, or if he's broken, but they've just struggled without him, and he's their best player. He's been the one that's put them over the top. Without Donovan Mitchell, this team's probably in like that 11th, 12th ranking of the teams. Like Jared Allen's, you know, he's pretty good, but he's not an offensive threat. Darius Garland is good in his own right, but he needs a little bit of help. Evan Mobley has been okay. He had a career night dropping 38, but he's still been and then the depth is fine, but they need Donovan Mitchell. And like I say with every single team, you need your superstars to win. Otherwise, you're going to lose. Talking about teams with their superstars coming back is the Philadelphia 76ers, and they're jumping up. They're playing damn good basketball. Even if you want to fire Doc Rivers, they are 30-16. Joel Embiid, probably the MVP favorite for me this year because he plays defense unlike Nikola Jokic, and his usage rate isn't 80% unlike Luka Doncic. They're just playing good basketball. Tyrese Maxey's been balling the hell out since he came back from injury. James Harden's been solid. The team top to bottom. Tobias Harris, DeAnthony Melton has turned out to be an incredible pickup. And I saw a stat out there. When PJ Tucker scores 0 points, the Sixers are 10-3. They're a good team. They're a really good team. They were my pick to win the championship. Is Doc Rivers going to hold them back? We'll have to see come playoff time, but it's good to see that they're playing damn good basketball. The team that's not playing damn good basketball is the Grizzlies, and they lost a couple games, embarrassingly to the Suns, although they had an epic comeback, and then to the Lakers as well. Weird. Now, I don't have much to say about the actual game. It was a good one that they lost in the closing minutes, but they're quickly becoming the most hated team in the NBA for all the shit they talk, and I don't know why. I'm good with that. We need more toughness and more rivalries and more egos in today's, politically correct buddy NBA. I'm sick of all these answers of like, oh yeah, they're a very good team and they play really tough and we have nothing but respect for them. Yeah, then that's a really good player. I love Draymond Green and I love LeBron James. I'm sick of everybody going on each other's podcasts. I want some hatred in the NBA, so I'm good with all the smack talk. What is a worry though is Ja's worsening shooting and their inability to consistently close games. And I think that's going to be a problem moving forward. And that's why I've struggled with putting them higher than the second best team in the Western Conference. Because whenever it comes down to it, whenever you need a bucket, it's tough because they're number one, their alpha, their dog is Ja Morant. He can't shoot, so he's going to drive into the paint as hard as he can, jump as high as he can, and hope that something happens. And that's just not reliable. You need a guy like Chris Middleton. You need a guy like Kevin Durant to pull up from mid, get those 2 points that are consistent. And that's always been a problem with this Grizzlies squad. And I think it always will be. They have the depth. They have the right role players. They have a good coach. They're a walking highlight reel. But I'm still troubled by this team at the end of games. I never feel confident in them. That said, they are the third best team in the NBA. Coming ahead of them, though, is the Denver Nuggets. And now Nikola Jokic has been sitting out with injury. Not sure what he's got. Hopefully it's nothing too serious. But then there is a tier above. And that is the Celtics tier of the Celtics. Best team in the NBA statistically by the eye test. No matter what you look at, the Celtics are just the best team in the NBA. They've gotten back to being the best team in the NBA. There was a little bit of struggle after they lost those games to the Magic, and then they pulled one out against the Warriors. The Warriors, who have their number, who've been beating them ever since the finals. It seems like they were in their head, and it finally, after some ridiculous turnovers, Jaylen Brown hit that dagger three, and then they dominated overtime. So Celtics, again, best team in the NBA. That's going to do it for this one. Let me know what your thoughts are, what you agree with, what you disagree with, and I'll catch you in the next one.